of the panel, Joseph Yusufero. We'll start with a roll call to account for all the members of the panel that are here this evening. So when you hear your name, as always, please say aye. Ms. Ennis? I don't hear Ms. Ennis. Mr. Can? I think I see Mr. Can, but it's on mute. Mr. Can, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Great. Yep, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Renaud?
Hey, Joe, I'm here. Sorry, I couldn't hit the...
All right, thank you. Mr. Sharma?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Ms. Sauce?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Mr. Walters?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Let me just scan the panelists here. I think I got everybody. And then Ms. Denise Watkins, who is the residential reviewer.
Aye.
Please say
I'm
aye.
here.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to do a quick review of today's agenda. Marta, are there any changes to the tentative agenda as it's published in front of us?
No, there are no changes, Joe. Thank you.
Great. So what we'll do now is we'll go through the minutes of the October 11th, 2023 meeting. The DRP meeting of October 11th, the panel members got an email on October 16th of 2023 that showed and identified the draft minutes of that DRP meeting. I'm going to ask the question, has everybody had an opportunity to review the draft minutes? And I'm going to take silence as you all have reviewed the draft minutes. And ask the panel members, are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the October 11th, 2023 DRP meeting? Hearing none. Without any comments, who would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as circulated?
This is Donald Can. I move to accept the minutes.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Can. We have a motion to accept the minutes as they're written. Is there a second?
Joe, this is Matt. I can second.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Renaud. All in favor, if folks could come off of mute and say aye if you're in favor.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Are there any DRP members opposed to the minutes? Okay, hearing none. So the motion carries approving the minutes of the October 11th, 2023 DRP meeting. So what I'm going to do now is read an opening statement prior to the applicant taking the floor here. So if everybody could just go ahead and mute your microphones. This is going to take a couple minutes or so, and this is essentially the rules and playbook of the DRP. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and I'll be a couple minutes. So Title 4, Subtitle 2, Part 1, Sections 32.4.203 and 204 establish the Design Review Panel and using the acronym DRP. The DRP was established to encourage design excellence and shall act in a consulting and advisory capacity to the agencies involved in the process for reviewing development plans. The objectives for the DRP's assessment include spatial, visual, and functional relationship of the topographic characteristics, the natural and built features of the site, as well as the surrounding features of the site, visual and functional integration of streetscapes, pedestrian pathways, Playgrounds, recreational amenities, and parks. Streets and sidewalks are laid out in a safe and convenient manner, and parking is a positive design element. Building, parking garages, and other structures are spatially and visually integrated and suitable to their surroundings in proportion, massing, and type of materials and colors, signage and other elements of urban design. And plant materials are selected and cited to define the site, provide a theme, frame of view, enhance architecture and street character, improve microclimate, provide transition between dissimilar uses, screen objectionable views and uses, and reduce noise levels and glare. In carrying out its duties, the DRP utilizes the guidelines, plans, and architectural principles in the Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies and/or Master Plan, as well as other guidelines and regulations adopted into law. Certain areas of the county were designated by the County Council to require review by the DRP. The panel will provide a technical review of the proposed project. Issues relative to zoning, setback relief, environmental and stormwater management, and traffic regulations do not fall under the purview of the DRP and are regulated through the appropriate agencies responsible for those aspects of the development plan review process. The panel consists of 9 members. All are professionals with practical knowledge in the matters of design. For purposes of making recommendations on a particular project, 3 members shall constitute a quorum. The attendance and comments of each member shall be recorded in the minutes, which shall be an open record and available along with all documents submitted to the panel for inspection and copying by the public. There will be opportunity for the community to offer comments and suggestions at the conclusion of the applicant's presentation. These comments will also be included in the written record of the meeting. When a speaker is called up to speak, please keep your comments focused on design perspectives within your allotted 2 minutes of time. If you are speaking on behalf of a community group, you will have 5 minutes. At the conclusion of the meeting, the Department of Planning will sum up the recommendations of the panel before a motion for a vote is suggested. Recent legislation has changed the panel's recommendations to be advisory on the hearing officer and the various county agencies unless the hearing officer or agencies find the panel's actions constitute an abuse of its discretion or are unsupported by the documentation and evidence presented. Disposition of the plan will be determined as either approved, approved with conditions, or additional review with a second meeting being required. So that is my opening statement prior to jumping in. So at this time, the first and only item on the agenda is 607 Upland Road in the Sudbrook Park Residential Review. I would ask the presenter to please introduce yourself. And with this, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Greg Rice. I'm Senior Vice President of Ameristar Homes. Ameristar, been in business, so I've been with Ameristar for well over 30 years. We're a home builder. We do approximately 35 to 40 homes a year. Thank you for inviting me to this procedure. So, Mark, I take it you want me to present what we're proposing?
What you proposed, everything that we discussed, yes.
Okay. We're proposing to build one single family home at 607 Upland. Home is being constructed for the Castro Sunderland family. Family currently has members in the the community. Traditional style 2-story home, located as per the screen we're looking at. It's a home we call the Roosevelt, and we've custom designed this for the needs of this family. The home's about plus or minus 2,265 square feet on the first and second floor, as well as it has an unfinished basement level with another 1,040 square feet. The home has a 68 square foot front porch for dry entry, and that is flanked by two 8-inch round fiberglass columns. Home also has a 336 square foot single family oversized garage. The interior, 4 bedroom, 2.5 baths, living room, kitchen, breakfast area, as well as a family room. Access to the garage in the home here is provided with a 18-foot wide car driveway, which should provide more than adequate off-street parking, as well as the off-street parking inside of the garage. It should hold up at least 4 vehicles without interfering with any road traffic and parking. When completed, we stabilized the complete property with sod, as well as we present a landscape package, which has a flowering tree in the front yard that you're seeing there, as well as a number of other shrubs and smaller plantings up against the foundation, using the plantings around the foundation to buffer the utilities that come into the house, electric meter and such thing, in order to help the street profile. We have retained vegetation on the rear of the lot, as well as on the side that separates this from the neighbor. I guess he is in 603. This lot is currently cleared. A slight snafu with the permit that was issued prior to this meeting. So what we presented to the community and what we've agreed to do is do some additional planting, some additional started oaks, as well as some October red or maples, to enhance the lot and also to restore some of the growth that needs to be on it. We've also agreed to do a couple of things after we would change a couple items on the home to some minor things, but things that may be of importance. Levered shutters instead of panels, because the homes in the community seem to be of more levered. We've also agreed to make sure that all the windows on the front elevation have shutters on them. That should enhance the appearance. If you drive the community just to the side of the corner at Upland, there's Saltburn. It has a number of single family one-car garage homes of a similar style, although they are somewhat more dated. You can see that in the pictures that Martha's moving there. I think they're the road view ones of 700, where are they at there? Oh, they're 618 Silburn and 16 Silburn. Although not exact, they're of a similar traditional styling of what we found in the community. And I say newer, maybe within the last 10 years. Again, we've worked with the family in order to customize and add extensions to the package, and to make sure that we've accommodated spaces in which we could, to make their life what they would like to have. Although minor things to most people, being able to customize drawings for Ameristar has given us a little better place in this market. People have the home that they want instead of a production home from a larger national type builder. It's pretty much what I have here, with the exception of the rest of the package. Martha has scanned through here the site plan and the locations and notifications. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Rice. And does this conclude your presentation?
That's it. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So at this time, as we typically do, now's the time that I'll open up the meeting for any kind of public comment. So just a reminder, as per the intro guidelines, if you're representing and speaking on behalf of a community group, you will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. If you're not on behalf of a community group and just speaking on behalf of yourself, then you'll be allowed 2 minutes to speak. Marta and/or Brett, are there any speakers from the public that have signed up to speak?
I don't have anyone on my end. How about you, Brett?
Joe, there's currently no one signed up in the chat box to speak on this project.
Okay. All right. So if there's nobody signed up in the chat, we'll go ahead and close the.
I think we have one person. Just a second. Let me double check.
I see somebody, Jim Carn, who's a
Yes.
resident and looks like they'd like to speak.
Okay, I'm gonna
I just
to panelists.
unmuted.
Okay, thanks. I definitely won't need the 2 minutes, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm a resident of the neighborhood for probably 35, 40 years. And I just wanted to communicate my support of the project. I think the neighborhood itself can use the investments, the idea that the home fits in with the rest of the areas. We have a pretty diversified set of homes. I think the look and feel of the home would actually fit into the neighborhood well, considering how many different types of homes there are. So from a structural perspective, I think it would fit. And I know it's not structural. I know it's not exactly in the guidelines, but I just think it's important to recognize that we keep investing in the neighborhood. And I think that that's a good thing for the neighborhood overall. So again, I told you I wouldn't need the full 2 minutes, but I think it fits well. And I just, as a long-term resident, I own 2 homes in the neighborhood. I'm supporting of it.
Excellent. Thank you very much for speaking.
Thank you so much, Joe. We have another request. We have
Sean?
yes. Brett, can you unmute?
Yes, I can.
And we also have 2 other residents who would like to speak.
Okay, just let everybody know when Sean gets unmuted, please.
He's unmuted.
Hi, this is Sean.
And I'm sorry for interrupting, but you have 2 minutes and your time start now. Thank you.
So I'm coming on in support of the project as well. Longtime resident in the neighborhood and just recently purchased a home, 700 Cliveden. So I'm right across the street. Definitely good to see that there are people investing in the neighborhood. And like was commented before, there's many different types of house in the neighborhood. So I don't think the design will clash at all. And with the look of the neighborhood and investing, there are other houses that are that have some like structural like issues outside. So it's nice to see people actually carrying like 605 down, like 2 doors down. The porch is being held up by 6x6s. It's falling apart. So seeing somebody care about the neighborhood and want to invest and build it up and actually move in is really good to see. So that's my stand.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Sean, for speaking in this portion. Marta and Brett, anybody else?
Yes, we have Miss Wendy Sunderland.
She's
Hi.
unmuted.
I was having some issues with the WebEx. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you
Okay.
fine.
And you have 2 minutes. Your time
Okay,
is
great, thank you. I really don't know if I need to contribute anything else. I believe Sean and the other resident, Jim, basically said what I was going to say. This is my daughter and my son-in-law's home. They just got married this past week, and they both, well, Adriano moved into the neighborhood recently. He's staying with me while the house is being built. I moved into the neighborhood in 1978 and owned 2 homes in the neighborhood, one within the historic district at 704 Cliveden, and one that falls outside of the historic district, but within the DRP map on Subbrook Road. And as the other residents have said, all of the homes really differ. With the historic homes, you know, you need to maintain the character of the homes. But as both of them were going through the design review, it was very important to them to make sure that the home fell within, you know, like structures within the neighborhood when they were choosing colors and the faces of the houses. One house could be brick next to a house with siding. So they still tried to keep within the character of the neighborhood when making their selections. So, you know, we just want to make sure that those points are recorded. You know, they did select things that obviously were within their price range as well. So making significant changes would impact this project for them as well.
Okay, thank you very
That's all.
much, Miss. Okay, great. Thank you, Miss Sunderland, and congratulations to your daughter and son-in-law for the wedding.
Thank you.
Okay, Marta, Brett, do we have anybody else that's signed up?
I think we have Adriana and Holly Di Castro.
Hi, can you hear me fine?
Yes, I
Yes.
can.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, basically I've lived in the neighborhood. Wendy kind of went over it. Yeah, I've lived in the neighborhood my entire life. And while we were in the process of going through the selections of the meeting, it was really important to me that our house didn't stick out, you know? Obviously, we wanted to keep it like in the neighborhood, and so we tried to think, you know, and choose our selections carefully. We drove around and we looked at all of the the neighboring houses and new construction. Down the road, there was a new construction, and it was light gray siding and black shutters that were chosen for the house. And so, you know, we selected that for ours. And then of course, across the street, there's white siding on the side of that house. So we tried to obviously pick within our budget, but also we wanted to, you know, make our house look, you know, similar to everyone else's in the neighborhood as well. I don't know if Adriana wants to say anything.
So as we were going around, we saw that the houses in the neighborhood were very colonial style. So we picked our home based on the other homes in the neighborhood, as Holly said. So we picked a colonial looking home with the big front face and the pillars and with the shutters and everything. We wanted to make sure it blended in with the rest of the neighborhood, like she said.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Adriano and Holly. Do we have any other speakers, Marta or Brett?
I don't have anyone on my end. Brett?
Nope. I think that's it, Joe. Should be good to go.
Okay. So at this point, we'll go ahead and close the public comment section. Thank you very much to everybody who spoke. Very helpful
And
comments.
Joe, may I interrupt? I know that Mr. Rice met with community and he discussed the project with the community. Can you speak a little bit about that also, Mr. Rice? Greg?
Marta, I didn't quite catch what you said there. One more time with that, please.
I know that you met with communities prior to this meeting and you addressed some comments.
For sure, and I mentioned them in the beginning. We did talk to the community about adding some additional trees, some scarlet oaks, as well as some October glory maples. We also discussed with the community to add a pair of shutters at that lower window on the front elevation, the twin window to the left of the front door. And the community also have requested that we consider using louvered shutters instead of the paneled shutters that are shown on the architecturals. They felt as though the louvered shutters fit better with the homes around the community. And that's pretty much the conversation with the HOA people.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Rice, for sharing the details of the community meeting with the panel. I think at this point, I'm going to go ahead and officially close the public comment. And because this is a residential project, there is no Department of Planning staff report. Is that accurate, Marta and Brett?
Yes, this is correct.
Okay, great. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to my fellow panel members to have a discussion related to the project. So I'm going to go ahead and go I'm going to go in reverse order from the order that we called, with the exception of Ms. Watkins. Ms. Watkins asked that because this is her first DRP meeting, she'd like to go last as the residential reviewer. So let's start with Mr. Walters. Mr. Walters, if you can hear me, please unmute, and it's your turn.
Thanks, Joe. I don't have any other comments except outside of the agree with the recommendations from the community, like adding the shutters and things that are tied. Outside of that, I have no additional comments.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Walters. How about we go to Ms. Sauce?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I think it's a good looking package. Sorry, I'm not sure why my video is not working tonight. My comments are more for the landscaping. I didn't see an existing conditions plan. Looking at Google Maps and some of the existing photos, it looks like there's a large oak tree in the front of the property along Upland. It doesn't appear to be specimen size, but just wondering if there's any existing conditions, information on the vegetation out there that would help determine that. And also looking at the existing well-established homes in the neighborhood. I'm glad to hear that you've added some additional landscaping, some natives, the red oaks, the red maples and whatnot, but it seems like the landscape material that you're proposing, there's a lot of invasives or non-natives with the Berberis lumbergiana, and it really seems undersized compared to the surrounding homes. So I would strongly recommend that you upsize your landscape package. And also just kind of wondering and curious, looking at the grading around the site and seeing that there's existing vegetation right along the property lines of 611 and 603, wondering if you could tighten up the grading a little bit to preserve some of that existing landscaping. I know you said you were adding additional landscape for those buffers. So hopefully a combination of both will keep that mature neighborhood look and feel and keep the characteristics of what the people love for the neighborhood. Those are my comments.
All right, thanks, Ms. Sauce. So I think I'd like to pause and see if Mr. Rice or Mr. and Mrs. DeCastro could just chime in and speak to that front tree. I think that would be helpful to hear.
The front tree that we're talking about was It was inside the limits of disturbance that you see on the drawing in front of you here. The lines that have the dots in it were the areas in which was approved to disturb to. And unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, the county issued this permit and gave us permission to start after we applied and unfortunately missed this DRP meeting. So the limits of disturbance that you see on the plan with that line and the dots in it is currently cleared. What we did do was anything outside of that limit of disturbance has remained in place. Unfortunately, that tree that we're discussing was in an area where the utilities come into the house. So that was also taken down. I've also found that putting larger and more mature trees in at this stage tends to overgrow some of the product in which not everyone wants to see so quickly. The trees that we use, and I believe I talked to, I think it was Dean, who is a landscape architect and with the community, and he had suggested using the scarlet oak, which I believe he thought may have been a native species, and as well as the October glory, and I could be wrong about that because I'm not a landscape architect, but Dean seemed to be quite versed in adding those specimens. But the front vegetation on the lot has been cleared already, and I think that's the reason Dean had proposed the addition of the 5 extra trees to be planted.
Understood. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rice. I think the panel understands now.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to Mr. Sharma. Mr. Sharma.
Unmute myself.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I don't have any comment.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Renaud.
Hey, Joe. Ms. Sauce actually hit all of as well. The other comment I would add is just the way the house is situated in relation to 611 to the west or the left-hand side of this page here. It seems like they just might want to have some additional plant material there to help with the screening, but it's just difficult to see what's been placed based on those supplemental trees that are on the plan. So it would be good for the county to be able to see that moving forward. But that's my last comment.
All right, great. Thank you. How about we go to Mr. Can?
Thank you. I have a couple comments. I guess it's disappointing that the large tree along Upland has been removed. I understand. There are trees, I think, adjacent to 611, and I'm hoping that a lot of that can be saved and that the grading can be studied more carefully. I think it would seem to me useful to have, as a matter of record, the location, at least, of the existing trees that are going to be retained, so that we get the benefit of the growth that's already there. The other thing that wasn't, second thought, the other thing that wasn't presented specifically was the materials for the exterior. I saw it's on one of the slides, but I think we should put that on the record because it wasn't discussed earlier. And all of the perimeter siding is now vinyl. Is that what I'm seeing?
That's correct.
Okay, and trusting the community is okay with that. And then the only other thing, which I've said similar things in the past, is that there certainly are some wonderful historic homes in Sudbrook, of course. And my pet peeve with projects like this is the shutters. on the historic homes, they're accurately sized for the windows. And my sense is that, in this particular situation, they're not proposed to be sized. And I think it's distracting. If it were me, I would eliminate the shutters altogether, being that they really are only on the front facade and they're way out of proportion to, even if they're louvered, they're way out of proportion to the windows. And to me are sort of distracting, and they don't occur on any of the other facades. So, either they should be, doubled up as they would have been if they were original, or eliminated, in my opinion. But otherwise, I think, very positive that folks are investing in that community. I think that's terrific. And I hope the project goes well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Can. So let's now go over to Ms. Watkins. Ms. Watkins, you can kind of get a feel for how the panel members talk about this, and curious if you have any, as the residential reviewer, have any comments related to the design and/or the community.
Sure. Thank you. And first, let me say thank you to Greg Rice and to the Sunderlands for being here to testify. As full disclosure, I am an architect, and that's the reason I'm on the panel, but I'm also a resident of Sudbrook Park. So full disclosure there, I live in this wonderful historic neighborhood. I do want to make a couple of comments. This is we always welcome good development in the community. We are a historic community mixed with a non-historic portion with diverse architectural styles in the community. To that end, I think this design contributes to that. I would like to reiterate what a couple of other panel members have said. Julie and Donald both emphasizing the landscape. As many of the panel members may know, that Sudbrook Park is a homestead community in the historic park. This house does not sit in the historic community, but it sits directly across the road from the historic community, and Upland is actually part of one of the original roadways in the neighborhood. To that end, we totally appreciate that the landscape has been amended, and I think we would really like to see it be amended, and we'd like to see a landscape plan, not just the schematic of where the trees are going to be replaced and put on the site, and that does help establish an integration with the historic Olmsted landscape that is traditional in the community. I think that would go a long way to helping, helping it integrate into our community. The second thing I wanted to ask about was the width of the driveway is 18 feet wide, which does seem pretty wide, and a lot of pavement in a pretty narrow lot. So many driveways in the neighborhood, some houses don't even have driveways in the neighborhood, but obviously those that are more contemporary do. But an 18-foot driveway, you see the existing driveway at 603 is probably half that size. So it might be, we'd like to see kind of maybe if that could be pared down just a little bit. The garage is a one-car garage, so maybe a little less paving and a little more green in the neighborhood. That would be helpful. Also, I think I heard in the presentation that some of the landscaping was being put on the front of the house to help kind of camouflage incoming utilities. Can you confirm if the meter on the house is on the front of the house? Is that the current location?
Oh, the meter will be installed on the garage side of the home,
Okay.
approximately 6 foot off the front corner.
Okay,
And
so on the side, not on the front. Okay.
And on the opposite side of the home will be the gas meter. in about the same location, about 6 foot back. So
Okay.
typically, we use the arborvitaes and the shamrock hollies in order to help buffer the appearance of the two utilities coming in.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm that they're not on the front of the house. We have had a
No.
couple of issues with that. Okay. So I think that that's really I'm iterating the same thing to the point of I know Mr. Khan had some comments about the shutters, the neighborhood, you know, the historic homes in the neighborhood, and many of the more contemporary ones do have shutters on the homes, whether operable or not. And so I would concur to make the shutters at least appropriate to the size of the windows, even if they're not operable. That goes a long way to visual cues. And while not in the historic neighborhood, since the garage is such a prominent feature on the house, perhaps consider a package that makes it a little more detailed, like a carriage door. You know, there are many, many packages now that the garage doors look less like garage doors and a little more like carriage house details, which gives it a little more of a historic character in the neighborhood. Everything else, I know Mr. Khan had asked about if the neighborhood was okay with the vinyl siding. Since the house is not located in the historic district, certainly the historic panel doesn't really have a say in that. We would request that the vinyl siding have a certain level of detail to it that helps emulate the historic character of the neighborhood. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Watkins. I think what I'll do is, as being the chair here, I always go last, and the beauty of going last is usually my fellow panel members hit the comments that I'd like to speak to. So I don't have any other comments, and I'm not going to repeat any of these, but I would like to open up to some of the comments that I heard thus far. Marta, can you go to the landscape or the site plan, please? That's it. Great, thank you. And just zoom in a little bit. So, a couple things that I've heard. Mr. Rice, I think, mentioned that, you know, within that, it's hard to read, but maybe it's LOD area or O. I think what I heard was the county incorrectly issued a grading permit, and everything within that has been cleared. So, you know, I think at this point, you know, I do think some landscaping should be put back in, and I think that this plan is very schematic and basic in nature, and I would agree with Ms. Watkins that a plan would be required and certainly submitted to the Department of Planning. I also heard from Ms. Watkins that driveway is a little wide, and I'd suggest that it's shown at 18 feet wide. There's, if you zoom in to the one to the right, it looks like that driveway is about 15 feet, if I'm reading that correctly. So perhaps one of the motion comments in the motion could be reduce the 18 to a 15 foot. And then I think last but not least, I heard some comments about the shutters. Just wanted to restate what I've heard. And at this point, I'd like to you know, open this up to a motion to my fellow panel members. And just a reminder, as we're thinking here, that the three options for the motion could be approved as submitted, approved with conditions, right, not requiring another meeting, or additional review and with a second public meeting being required. So I'd ask the panel members again, can somebody make a motion?
I'll be glad to take a shot at it. So I would move that the project be approved with conditions. And those conditions would include reducing the width of the driveway to 15 feet for the owners to provide a full landscape plan which indicates all of the existing trees and their location and size, as would be typical, as well as proposed new trees and location information. That the reconsider the design, the selected design of the garage door to be more sympathetic to the historic character of the neighborhood, and that the client review the shutters in one of two options, which the client can decide. One is to eliminate them altogether, and the other is to explore how to make them properly sized for those window openings so they support the scale of the building. But otherwise, I think it's a good project and should proceed. And at least review can be done by the staff.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Kim, for making that motion. I'm going to pause and ask Marta and Brett to comment. Is this motion clear enough for the record?
It's clear. I got it all, Joe.
Great. Okay.
Hey, Joe, real quick. I think there's one last item that probably needs to be added. It's just removing the invasive species from the plant list and replacing those with native species. I don't know if Donald needs to say that or if this suffices.
Thank you, Matt. So, Mr. Can, how about if since you made that motion, if you could add just one condition to that motion, assuming you're on board with that condition.
Certainly, I appreciate that. Yes, that they eliminate the invasive species from what's proposed.
Okay, great. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the project with some conditions that could be worked out at the Department of Planning staff level. Do we have a second for the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, I think that was Ms. Sauce. So thank you, Ms. Sauce, for the second. And I'm going to ask all in favor of the motion, if you could come off of mute and say aye.
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 Aye as well. So I think I heard everybody, but let me just go through. Is there anybody opposed to the motion? Hearing none, so the motion carries. Thank you very much, and congratulations on your approval. Okay, so because this is the only project on the agenda, we are now at the end. So what I'd like to ask of everybody is, do I have a motion to adjourn the last board meeting of 2023?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Ms. Sauce. Do I
Happy
have
New
a
Year,
second?
everyone.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. The board meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in the new year.
Happy holiday, everybody.
Have a
Thank
good
Happy
you.
evening.
holidays.
Bye-bye.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays. Thank you.